Hello, Harold here with Whitney Williams, and this is the core class for week 6, where we are talking about the Hermetic principle of gender in review. And I've noticed that one of the students, Amber, is trying to message. I'm going to look at that message now. Who's not able to come? No problem, Amber. Go ahead and watch the course lesson and review later on if you can, because there's going to be some good information here. So Whitney, who is now the one of the guides for the core class, can you introduce yourself? Where you're from?
Yeah, absolutely. So, hello, everybody. My name is Whitney, and I have a business, a shop. It's called The Witch Source, and I'm located in Winston-Salem, North Carolina. And I also have a fun podcast and show on Fringe TV. So if any of you guys watch Fringe TV, you might be familiar with it. I have been lucky enough to interview some very amazing people for my show. And I think you guys would really enjoy it. If you haven't watched anything yet, you can catch it on Fringe TV on Monday nights at 8. But we are going to be partnering up, and when we wrap up Hermetics, we'll be talking about the Witch's Pyramid. So hopefully everybody sticks around for that. But I have been in love with the craft since I found my mom's witchcraft books when I was 12. And I just instantly fell in love. And as soon as I, was old enough, I started studying and reading cards. So I've been an oracle card reader now for 15 years and a studier of the craft in some form for 20, and running my business now for 3 years. So online, and then just recently in June opened the physical shop in North Carolina. So I am so happy to be here and share this journey with everyone, and be here to support you guys.
Well, we welcome you to the core class, Whitney. But I wouldn't say so far that when the Hermetics are done, because right when we get into the Witch's Pyramid, I'm pretty sure that that formula itself comes from the Hermetics. So
Oh, yes,
we're
definitely.
quite done with Hermetics as we apply the craft in different ways, and how we can, it all kind of goes right back to the Hermetics, I think.
Well,
So,
yeah, absolutely, Harold, and I agree with you. And I think the cool thing about the craft, and as we learn and explore, is a lot of these things build on each other. So you're gonna definitely revisit these hermetic principles, and these concepts of the witch's pyramid, and you'll see the ideas and theories behind the elements revisited, and all of it. And I think that's one of the things that I love is we're here to really dive into the core and the foundations. And this is stuff that will really be the foundation of your time with the craft. I mean, it doesn't matter if you're doing a monthly espit, or if you're doing your rituals or just spell work in general. All of this information uh, applies, and
mhm.
all of these things build on each other, and they help you to really grow and know yourself. Like we was talked about at the beginning of the core. It's really one of the main things. So I'm excited to be here and see how everything comes together, and how the different people that are coming through really evolve and learn and reach your spiritual goals within yourself and within the craft.
Mhm. And I see that Jacqueline, did I say the right name?
Yeah.
Jacqueline, thank you so much for coming on to the core class. It's the first time you've been on the video segment. I know that you've watched some, and there was some kind of disruptions in how I provided the link last week. Yeah, so thanks so much for coming by. Um, Again, this is Whitney. She's going to be one of the guides
Hi.
for the core class. And
Hi. Mhm.
Jacqueline has already completed her 350 word essay. And it's very important to, if you're wanting to become a student or get involved in the class, that you complete your 350 word essay where you've been in the craft and where you want to go. Because what that does is it shows us that they're willing to work. And it also shows us where they're at and where they want to go. So it's very important. Um, the craft is for hardworking folks. I can't stress that enough. And I know, and it's a broken record, but I'll keep on saying it, that only with the sweat of your brow are you going to obtain that magical power, which everyone has, and it's all within us. Jacqueline, do you have any questions at all?
No, I'm just here to learn. I'm one of the things I'm going to have to. I am a hard worker. I can get distracted very easily, and I'm working on that. As far as I've added dedicated and determined to my precepts that I recite every morning. The Reiki precepts. I'm not sure if you are aware of them, but I added that to mine so that because it seems like the more I add to them, the more I move that into my life. Or I'm bad with words too. I pick up those traits the more I say that that's who I am.
Mhm.
Is what I guess I'm trying to say.
So in the mornings, you have like an adoration that you say every morning.
Yeah.
I think that would definitely cover one of the Hermetic principles that we were talking about of mentalism. Definitely. 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 All right. So without any further ado, I know we've had an introduction with Whitney as guide and an introduction with Jacqueline, but I wanted to review one of the Hermetic principles that we were talking about, which is week 6 is curriculum, is the principle of gender. And as what the Kabbalion tells us about the Hermetic principle of gender is in everything. Everything has a masculine and feminine principle, and that the element of gender is seen in all planes, meaning physical, mental, spiritual. I mean, I think everything. It's everything. Um, Jacqueline, what do you think, or what's your opinion on the Hermetic principle of gender?
I'm not sure yet. I'm still trying to. I don't know yet. I don't think I quite understand it yet. I guess let's just put it that way. I don't think I quite understand it yet.
Right. And that's what the core class is all about. I think overall, the Hermetic principle of gender, it's not a physical attribute. It's more of a mental and a spiritual attribute. And I think that I think a lot of people within, people that are learners or people that are interested in the craft or the occult, they go right to that mainstream value of like gender. Because I know that there's a lot of like social situations in society where people are identifying as different genders, and it's like, people are just so opinionated about it. And I think that when you deal with it occultically or hermetically, it's more than just a physical attribute. It's a mental and it's a spiritual attribute.
I had forgotten that was brought up. I had completely forgot about the feminine and the masculine. And when you said it spiritually, that all clicked into place for me.
Right.
Sorry.
I'm going to bring one more person into the core class, and they are muted, but that's okay. Thanks so much for coming into the core class, Michelle. Nice to have you.
Hi, nice to be here.
Great. You have some kind of feedback, so I'm going to mute your mic until we can figure that out. Thanks. So yeah, we're talking about the Hermetic principle of gender. Jacqueline, what kind of when you think of masculine energy, and we really have to try to think out of the box here, but when you think of masculine energy, what comes to mind?
The parts of you that takes action on things, the parts of you that is like searching for that word. The provider, the person that just the one that takes the action, the one that does everything.
And that's exactly right. The masculine aspect is active. It's creative. It's the rational forces. When you think of feminine energy, what do you think of?
Intuition, wisdom, divine wisdom, resting, taking time for yourself, self-love, patience, nurturing, those kind of things.
When it comes to the masculine energies, I mean, the female seems to be the polarity of the whole energy current itself, where the female energies is more passive or receptive, and it's a lot more intuitive.
Mm-hmm.
So the masculine is more rational, where the feminine is more intuitive. And I think that's very important, especially when we're talking about the craft, because it's always been said, it's always been said that women are more intuitive than men are. And I don't know if that's a sexist thing or not. And I just know that it's common thought. I don't know how true that is. So it'd be interesting to explore. But then again, the Hermetic principle of gender is more than physical. So it's mental and spiritual. So I think that, the physical people that are physically men or embody masculine energies, sometimes it's hard for them to get in touch with feminine energies, because of cultural norms and stuff like that. And like the reverse could be true as well. So it's definitely interesting when you try to get to the core of a situation, especially a core that's immutable, meaning we can't argue it. We cannot argue the fact that in existence, there's gender. Everything has gender. There's no way around it. There's absolutely no way around it. And one of the previous classes we were talking about is one of the first Egyptian gods was a hermaphrodite, meaning both.
Mm-hmm.
And then that particular Egyptian god said, "You're the male god, you're the female god, and there you are." So it's interesting to point out that even though we have physical appearances as either masculine or feminine, we still have the attributes of both in us. And the best way to explain that in layman's terms is an old symbol that we used to use back in the day in Wicca of a yin-yang symbol. And I know, like back in the day, 20 years ago, Wiccans used the symbol of the yin-yang symbol prominently all the time. And you don't see it as much now as you did then, but they used to use it a lot. And it's a perfect symbol of gender and how it's both. And it's both. It really is. Michelle, what do you think about the Hermetic principle of gender?
I don't know. I think that you have to have both I think we're always using both. I see the feminine as the receptive, like the vessel that it gathers, and it gathers the knowledge or the energy or it's the one that the nurturer is the one that brings everything in. It's the receptacle. And I see the male as being dominant, as being like the fire energy, the one that the female has. She gathers it all, but then the male directs it and uses it. So I think as an individual, you have to have both to actually function in the world. And I think you kind of fluctuate between the two. I don't really know how to answer this question. I don't know. Did I answer the question?
That's kind of how I felt too.
Yeah, it's like some are more predominantly connected to one aspect or the other, and it doesn't have to do with the physical vessel. Energetically, like my daughter has always more masculine, and that's since she was born. It's just
It's me.
it's the nature, and I think one is, like you said, more intuitive, the feminine, because it's more receptive, because we're open, we're the vessels, we're always gathering and absorbing everything around us energetically. So we're more in touch with the intuition and intuitive, and the masculine is more cerebral and mental, and let's go get it done. And
I think it's very well said. Very well said. Wendy, do you have anything to add on the Hermetic principle of gender?
I think it's important to remember that even when you are looking at the two sides, the masculine and the feminine, that within those, there are still expressions of the masculine and feminine. So it's kind of a continuous cycle. It's not, you can't draw that line. You can't, cut straight down the middle all of the time. Um, and it's like I mentioned in the group chat that you've got like the magnet, right? And you have the two polarities. And even when you cut that magnet in half, you don't separate the polarities. Like you still have both polarities within each one. And so when we are looking at it and we go back to the beginning with the Egyptian god that was the embodiment of both sides, we ourselves are the embodiment of both sides, just like the magnet. It's just sometimes we can express ourselves more on one end or the other. And so it's important to remember that, because everything is expressive at one point or another, and the goal is to find the balance. But it's not just about finding the balance, it's also about knowing when you need to lean more towards one side or the other as well. And that you're never fully one or the other. They're never fully separated completely. And I think it begs the question, was this God the embodiment of both or the absence of it all? And where do we fall within that, at what times? And, in the craft, I think there's times when we have to be active, and then there's times where we have to be passive and we have to be receptive, because we can't always be on. We can't always be go, go, go. We can't always be pushing and forcing. And we have to lean back and go into that softer side to be receptive and allow for the divine to work, in essence, or for the magic to work, or for the action that we've put in to be able to come to fruition. If we, plant a seed and then we are constantly digging it up to check on it, it's not going to grow. We have to know that when we plant that seed, which is the masculine, the active, and we put it into that container of Mother Earth as the receptive, just like when we are, doing the work, even here in the craft, we are planting these seeds of these principles within ourselves, within our subconscious. And we also have to allow ourselves to be open and receptive to it, so that it can really become integrated into not just what we do or what we know, but who we are. So that way we can really express it going forward as well. And we also have to have that trust that our feminine side will know what to do with the seed once it's planted, because we don't always consciously know what to do when we receive something. Sometimes we have to allow that intuition, and we have to allow that trust that what we plant will bear fruit. then we get active again to harvest the fruit, and it starts the cycle over.
Absolutely, Whitney. And in Hermetics, the masculine energy is like penetrative, assertive, like it's on a conquest. It's feminine energy is more it's definitely receptive, sacred, and a lot more protective, nurturing. And when you look at gender and we look at stuff like, and I'm not really good at this kind of thing, but when we look at like an atom, and I know this to be the scientific, is the very creation of an atom is you have the feminine and the masculine with their dance to create an atom. Like it's gender is like when you say gender, it's creation itself. And the word gender comes from that Latin word, which is to beget, to begot, to procreate, to produce,
to generate.
Right. Gender in Hermetics, it doesn't refer to physical sex, or a person's male or female, reproductive organs. It's more like, it's like matter. Gender on higher planes is comes to pass, or it reveals itself in different ways. Masculine and feminine energies working together, physically, mentally, and spiritually, is hard to wrap your mind around. And I hope to wrap my mind around it like adeptly someday and apply it to all of the other immutable truths together. And I think it can only empower our magic at the end of the day. I really feel that. But yeah, the Hermetic principle of gender, I very much thought was going to be a controversial topic because of the way that society is these days. But when I come down to it and I boil it, and we boil it down, it's one of those immutable truths. You can't argue with it. Gender is seen on every plane. It's immutable. It's definitely immutable. Does anybody have anything else on gender before we move on to something else? Good. I wanted to move on to something that, in opinion, I feel like it comes from Hermetics itself, and it's something that, and we have tons of people that call themselves witches these days. And that's kind of like a brand that it was bad to call people a witch. 400 years ago, you wouldn't be calling people witches because it was like a bad thing. Now people think it's the coolest thing ever, so those are just cultural changes. But on the same token, modern craft has adopted a system, a magic that they call the witch's pyramid. And to know, to will, to dare, to keep silent. It's like a pyramid structure on like a magical formula. And I wanted to talk about this I feel it comes directly from the Hermetics, and the Hermetics got it from the Cometics. But the witch's pyramid is not an actual pyramid structure. It's like a philosophy. And it's almost like a formula to work magic. And the name comes from the fact that a pyramid is like a symbol of enlightenment. It's been called by other names too. They've called the witch's pyramid in modern times. They've called it 4 powers of the Magus. Now it depends on what time period or what group of people are talking about this. But modern day people that are interested in the craft, they call it the Witch's Pyramid. But they've called it the Four Powers of the Magus. They've called it the Four Secrets of the Sphinx. No one really knows the origins of the Witch's Pyramid, but we know for sure that it's rooted in Hermetic magic. And it's definitely older than Hermetic magic. Any thoughts on the Witch's Pyramid, Whitney?
Yeah, I have lots.
Let's hear.
I definitely agree with it's a formula, and once you can learn the formula and conceptualize it and then apply it, you'll find that it's not only good in magical practice, but its principles and its the understandings of it can apply to several things in and throughout your life. It's very key. But and yes, I agree that we will definitely revisit a lot of the hermetics. A lot the elements are wrapped up, and I don't know how much you want me to go into with it. You mentioned the key factors, right? I don't know. I don't know how far you want me to go.
I mean, we'll definitely go into detail for the first initial class, which you'll be involved in the first class. You said the first week of October, right? So we can hear a lot more of the Witch's Pyramid on the first week of October, where Whitney will be facilitating one of the classes, and then on the Sundays we're doing interchangeably. That way we can research more, reach out more, work more independently with some of the people that are in the class, because there's a lot of independent stuff that I have a hard time juggling because there's a lot on my plate these days. But yeah, I mean, it's a good kind of gives what we're going to be talking about.
I'm really excited about it because I think if you apply this Witch's Pyramid and you really dig into the concepts and the core of it, and you apply your understanding of the Hermetic principles and you apply that into each aspect, I think you'll have a very thorough understanding, but I also think it'll give you an even greater understanding of the Hermetic principles as well. When you'll really see how they apply, and how to use them. So I think it'll really start to come together full circle, and all of it will make a whole lot more sense. So I really hope that you guys will join both sides of the class for each week, so that you can really get the blending and that deeper understanding.
Yeah, the Witch's Pyramid, the Four Powers of the Magus,
Yes.
the Four Secrets of the Sphinx, and it's definitely going to be a journey to go through what each one of they mean: to know, to will, to dare, to keep silent. And right off the rip, I want to leave it with the keep silent part, because I see so many people, especially on media, where they'll say we're all going to come together and cast a spell, and and this is what we're doing, and this is how we're doing it, and this is what planetary correspondences we're going to use. That kind of goes against what the Witch's Pyramid suggests with the keep silent thing.
Right.
Keep silent. It was to keep silent for a reason, because anybody else's mentalism can affect our intent or our will.
Yes.
And it's just one of those things. So yeah, that's all I got. That's all I have for the core class for this Wednesday. At the conclusion of the going over the weeks with the Hermetics, we have one more week left. We're going to do a quiz. We're going to come back. We're going to be joined by Whitney. We're going to be diving deep into the Witch's Pyramid. For people wanting to join up with the core class, 350-word essay. Where have you been with the craft? Where do you want to go? And I'll see y'all soon. Thank you guys for joining the video feeds. Jacqueline and Michelle, appreciate your endeavors, and I'll see you Sunday.